you know, it could benefit from an engine at one end of it, don't you think? No. No. Ooh. At least he left this behind. His prized MGR wagon. Oh yeah. Hello and welcome back to Edinburgh once again. We've got Arthur's Seat over on our left here, and while we won't be exploring the top of that today, we will however be exploring somewhere underneath it. Let's head onward. We're off to explore one of Scotland's most unique little railways here, with a lot of history lurking behind it. Quite a lot of walking to do to get to it as well, so we'll enjoy one last look at Calton Hill behind us as we climb up this 1 in 7 street that I'm on at the moment, and snip through a few of Edinburgh's ancient side streets while at it. This swish housing estate in St Leonard's on the outskirts of Holyrood is where our journey in proper starts today. As we pass through scatterings of parked cars, we are also passing through a former goods yard at the start or the end, whichever way you want to place it, of what used to be the former Edinburgh to Dalkeith railway route, also known quite affectionately as the Innocent Railway. And here, hiding behind all these flats and footbridges, is the focal centrepiece of this former route itself, which today's trek commences with. This 550-yard tunnel behind me took the railway underneath the edge of Arthur's Seat, the domineering extinct volcano which has stood president over Edinburgh since the dawn of time. In fact, 350 million years before that even. And in true tradition of my channel, I think 558 yards is long enough for us to cope with, don't you? A little bit of history as we head through the hole. The coal industry in Edinburgh had thrived since the start of the 19th century. And as it became a bit of a labour for the horses, by 1830, a railway was decided upon, and a union and a local duke banded together and built the Edinburgh and Dalkeith Railway Company and Line. It would remain horse-drawn, but at least now guided by rails. Except for the tunnel here, which is guided by cable because of the incline of 130. We're actually walking the opposite way to which the coal trains travelled, fully laden. So you can probably guess why the cable section became critical. Why the cable work section became crucial. I should correct my English there. Fast forward to 1847, and the North British Railway had taken over the line, and by that time, steam trains became the norm throughout. So the horses and also the cables were spared, although obviously a fair amount of steam was still required to get through this big tunnel we're in now. Coal had been mined in Edinburgh, in truth, since the 13th century, with the labour actually being carried out by monks, would you believe? And many hundreds of thousands of tonnes were produced every day, come the 1800s. So the horses had quite a fair bit of work cut out for them. We're more than halfway through the tunnel now. Along here on my left, when I last walked through it back in 2015, one of the most significant pieces of graffiti was a large set of 2-foot glaring eyes on my left. Well, the eyes were 2 feet wide each, but the whole face was about 6, I think. There wasn't actually a face, just 2 eyes. I've been useful for scaring off any antisocial behaviour taking place today. I was talking about as the cyclists came past. My commentary coming through this tunnel has been a mess already without passers-by wondering what's going on, don't you agree? Got one coming up from the stern as well. Ooh, 2 of them. Morning. No, I apologise. 6 of them. I feel like I've just strayed into the Tour de France with my camera. Well, those eyes might be gone. We still have another pair to replace them. Oh! I'm being watched by all sides. Is that Count Duckula? And remember that programme from the 80s? Cartoon with David Jason with Dracula now as a duck. Can't stand why no one's installed a ghost train here yet. Most of the props are already installed. Ghost cycle route then. As good as it'll get now. Anyway, we've got out of the new made horror tunnel. We'll have to look back around again. I apologise for my sloppy commentary of the last 7 minutes. As you know, I like to film these tunnels live walking through them, and it ruins it if I have to keep pausing my camera every time I need to rephrase something. I just hope I've got everything right there. Complain on the channel if not. Staring straight back through the tunnel from the centre of the line, it is not impossible to make out the incline. So I've let you guys off lightly today, I think. Although the bad news is, there is still yet another 1.25 miles left to explore. So let's be walking. Launching from amid the porticos. And suddenly, there's an even sharper incline right now. I think only applied since the installation of the bike path though. You can still decipher how steep it is behind me as the tunnel disappears upwards and away. So my instinct tells me that we are continuing at 1:30. At least mercifully, much milder an incline than what's directly above on our left. The volcanic rock facade of Arthur's Seat. Saying that, this is most probably be Salisbury Crags. Jumping back to the railway now, which of course is what this video is all about. The line was originally part of a much longer route and fell under Edinburgh District Railway ownership in the mid-1830s, shortly after the actual railway was laid for horse-drawn operation. When the North British Railway took over the operation of the line in the 1840s, the railway, which had been gauged at 4'6" until then, this because of that being the then gauge of the tracks around the mines at Dalkeith, was fully relayed at standard British width to connect its workings to the national main lines. Choo choo. Whoops. Do you know, I believe I might have got the wrong gauge here. Yes. It's about 1mm wider than a Hornby track, I must admit. Nice try. Rounding a corner here, and we come across a small chicane for the path at least. A chicane in the wall, hidden behind the trees there. Evidence possibly of sidings or another small yard that existed here at some stage. Cyclists ahoy again. This short 1 3/4 mile stretch from St Leonard to Duddingston was laid as a cycle route in the 1980s. The line closed in 1968, by which time the railway had been taken over by a diesel operation for a short period, mostly shunters. It seems to be quite wide at this point, so maybe more than 1-2 tracks employed here. Rather interesting little wall and window plus door. And working our way out of that rather long 1S bend, she straightens out again for the last bit. Just as handy, so I can see all the cyclists and joggers coming straight towards me from the end. So I'm counting 3 people at the moment. Well, that'll be 2 very shortly. This feels like a cutting, but doesn't actually count as one, because there's 6-foot high walls on either side. Dating, however, very clearly back to the railway's time based on their age, although they've obviously had some infill in between the stones. It starts to get a bit greener down by the side, just along here. Giving it more of the flavour of a true former railway cutting. Another place where a narrow gauge one would be nice to ride today. We now pass under what used to be a bridge. Given the width of the abutment, the gauge up there could be somewhat questioned. I haven't checked on the map which one this was, chaps and chapesses, so sorry about that. One more chicane that made this long straight appear somewhat shorter from back up the curve. Kind of sliced it in half, really. A 2-part straight. If this had been a Grand Prix circuit, that would have been so cruelly misleading, wouldn't you agree? Putting up on a right here, we discover this unusual looking little platform like thing. Possibly a gate there once. You can see a slight change in stonework. And some pretty aged brick steps going up. Moving on once more ahead. And the end of our little trek for today is in within touching distance of us right now. One last trip along the wall we go. But we end it with this interesting little bridge taking us over onto Duddingston Road. Atop which an impressive quantity of the bridge's original ironwork has stood the test of time. While on the topic, the Innocent Railway was known so due to its impeccable safety record across its 140 years in use. Scarcely a record any other railway in Britain, past or present, lives to boast about. Although close to passengers as early as the 1840s, it still had to be strong enough to get the railways and their coal wagons over them for another 120 years to come until closure. And while at it, I will have to be testing its weight bearing for myself again in a moment or two. As the former line continues on a lifeless concrete path towards Duddingston from here on, I, however, have to be continuing right back the other way towards Edinburgh again. So, just leaving me to thank you for joining me on this little set of railway journeys around Scotland. Sadly though, it is time for me to be heading back for the train towards Sheffield. I look forward to seeing you all south of the border very soon. And if you want to meet me again there, subscribe, because plenty more journeys lie ahead, and who knows where the next could be. Now that bit about taking my weight. See, not too bad, was it? Ah, so nice to be back again after that little break, isn't it? Ronnie, I'm home. Ronnie, what have you done to my train set?